So Pablo and I are minding our own business, and there's Pablo, when I came across an article on advisor perspectives by a guy that is one of those credentialed elites, highly credentialed, arrogant as all can be, and yet ignorant at the same time. And trust me, arrogance and ignorance, they are not parallel. Let's just put it that way. They certainly can be perpendicular. Here's a guy with he's a mathematics degree, an adjunct professor of some school, and I frankly don't care. And he had written previously about the science of how the advisor industry, he'd taken him to task, and rightly so, about how the advisor, the financial investment industry uses mathematics in just bad ways. So let's put it that way. I agree with that. But then he also written a few years back about client science being determined, solved. And I said, it's weird how you would take to task the mathematics, the bad math of the advisor industry, but yet you just go lock, stock, and barrel in believing the client scientist. He goes, but why would they lie? Anyway, so he had written an article today that America is no longer great. And I knew it was going to piss me off, and it did. And the premise, the reason America is no longer great is because China's got us. And these guys don't like Trump. Let's just put it this way: the Thomas Friedmans, the Paul Krugmans, the elitists out there, they don't like Trump, and they think that we need to be more like China. And if you look at these guys, they're all I don't want to say tyrannical, but they want to control you. They're ideologues who don't like America. They don't like the American people who voted for Trump. And thus they support the totalitarian government of the commies. It's nuts. And so this guy is citing a book written by a couple economists from MIT, which I'll get to here in just a second, because the whole crux of my frustration is the author of that book. But anyway, is that China's doing this, China's doing that. It's like this the same flipping crap we hear over and over. We heard about Japan. We heard about the Soviet Union. It's this, what I just don't understand. Let me show you a book I have here. This is called, I've cited this book a couple times if I can find it. It's a wonderful book, but yeah, right here, called Political Pilgrims. And this is Travels of Western Intellectuals to the Soviet Union, China, and Cuba by Paul Hollander. R.I.P. Paul just died last year. And it's a freaking wonderful book. And I got another book up there, Meaning of Treason by Rebecca West. But he talks about how all these intellectuals go to these various totalitarian places and just, they basically bow before the totalitarianism. And they're intellectuals. And again, it's the arrogant yet ignorant people that do that, because for some reason they hate their countrymen. I don't understand. Wait. So this guy, I won't name his name, just whatever. It's just not worth it. But this guy was writing about how these authors of this book were citing how China, I guarantee 20 years ago they was said Japan, has got us, by the jockstrap and whatnot, because China, look, I don't care. I just don't care. But the funny thing was the author. I'm going to mention the author to you, all right? Now, if you know who this is, give me a thumbs up before I mention who. I'll tell you who it is. But if you know why I laugh at this author's name, give me a thumbs up if you do, because I need that for the algorithm for sure. But I'm also curious. I'm going to mention this guy's name, this economist. And if you know who he is, without having to Google him, just by saying, that name sounds familiar. Why? Thumbs up, all right? So the author, that this mathematician guy, this arrogant yet ignorant guy, or maybe he's just living in a bubble he doesn't know, or even worse, he wants to hide, almost like hide the decline from Phil Jones and Michael Mann and all these guys in the climate science unit. And Phil Jones was at the East Anglia Climate Research Unit, hide the decline. They had to hide the decline of various previous cold fronts that came in because it didn't fit their hockey stick model and whatnot. The whole thing, intellectual. Or what the same Nicholas Taleb will say, intellectual yet idiots is what these people are. Anyway, so the MIT economist, his name's Jonathan Gruber, who had written this book about how America is no longer great. Now, obviously, this is a slap to the Trumpster, make America great again. I get it. I get it. Intellectuals hate Trump because Trump, they don't like him. He's not intellectual enough for whatever reason. Intellectuals think if they only were given power, we'd all be living in freaking, land of milk and honey, which we are, without them having too much power. Jonathan Gruber, The MIT economist had written this book about how America is no longer great and China is going to decimate us. So I'll give you a couple seconds. Jonathan Gruber, the MIT economist. Does that name sound familiar? Jonathan Gruber. Yes, it's that Jonathan Gruber. The fraud, the architect of the Obamacare, who said we can only get this passed because of the stupidity of the American people, who defrauded the state of Vermont when they were trying to implement a single-payer system, which they could not do, by the way, because they don't have the money to afford it, who defrauded them of $500,000. He tried to, but the state had basically, they could have taken him, but they said, we'll just settle this. We'll only give you $90,000 as opposed to the $500,000 you requested by fraudulent receipts, who defrauded the American people. And we know this. The same Jonathan Gruber, may his name go down in infamy, and a guy, this mathematician at Advisor Perspectives, who's citing him as his source to say, oh, America's no longer great. All these guys should be shamed. They should be shamed, man. I don't want any of this cancel culture crap. But anytime you hear these names of Jonathan Gruber, MIT, you should say, why in heaven's name would you cite an academic fraud who fraudulently put Obamacare on us, knowing full well what he knew, who tried to steal from the innocent taxpayers of Vermont hundreds of thousands of dollars? And he probably could have been thrown in jail, to be perfectly honest with you, without question, simply because the state of Vermont said, look, we're not going to go furthest with this. But the Gruber admitted, well, he didn't admit it. He settled and didn't say he is guilty or not. But at the end of the day, he only got $90,000 when he filed for $500,000. Why does this guy still have a job at MIT nonetheless? That's what's crazy. We had people at USAA who got fired. In fact, I almost got fired. I actually, one time when I was at USAA, I was in New York, and I was doing a seminar in Manhattan. I can't remember, just in Manhattan, and I had to fly into I had to fly to Newark, I think, and I was driving up to the Thayer Hotel in West Point because I was going to do another seminar in West Point. So I was using West Point as my base of operations. Long story short, Delta lost my luggage, and that's when I learned that Delta is don't expect luggage to arrive. Come here, Pablo. He's a good boy. He's just biting on my hand. It hurts, man, because he's such a little nugget. He hurts me. But anyway, so I arrived at New York. I was going down to New York. I had nothing. I had no suit or anything. And I called, and I couldn't get a hold of my boss. So, dude, what do I do? I'm literally in like a freaking Motley Crue T-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. I can't show up in this. I mean, I'd be perfectly honest, I would have. But I couldn't get a hold of my boss, so I talked to this other guy who was my boss's boss. He said, oh, no, just go and buy something there and just keep it. I said, just keep it? I said, well, I should turn in. He goes, yeah, whatever, just when you get back to whatever. I said, well, good. So I went, and I bought a nice outfit. It wasn't, it was like $400 or something like that. Long story short, I get back to freaking Texas, and I was going to go turn it in. I told him, and by this time, my boss had the receipt, and this is a new boss I had. My expense report. He goes, what's this? I said, well, I did this. I talked to this guy. Long story short, and he said to do it. And the guy who told the boss's boss who told me to do it said, I never meant you to do it. I said, dude, you told me. The whole thing was corrupt. And anyway, I was worried I was going to get fired because I thought they were using my credit card for nefarious reasons. And I said, well, I'd turn it back in. Because they had a store. What was the place where you can get 8,000 shirts for the price of one? I forgot what it was. They used to advertise like crazy. They might still. I don't watch the advertising anymore. I forgot what the place is. You got like 20 shirts for the price of one. Anyway, so I had Men's Warehouse or something like that. So I returned it to the Men's Warehouse in San Antonio. I was going to do that anyway. I'm going to keep this stupid stuff. But I remember my boss said, yeah, go ahead, just keep it. Bring it back to Texas and whatever. I said, okay. Anyway, I would have been fired for that. I thought I was going to get fired for that, which is nuts. And it didn't turn out to be that bad. But here's Jonathan Gruber. Now, he got fired by the state of Vermont, but why is MIT keeping him on? I mean, I don't know what the tenure stuff is, but this guy's a fraud. He tried to steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from the taxpayers of Vermont. Never mind the fraudulent stuff on Obamacare. We know he lied about this stuff. Why it's crazy. Some guy gets fired for using a Mark Twain N-word in a literary book, and he gets fired for whatever. And yet, what's this guy, Jonathan Gruber? The guy wasn't saying it; he was just using the word. He gets fired, but Jonathan Gruber gets to keep his job, even though he's a fraud. And here's this guy again, intellectual yet idiot, with a mathematics degree, who's arrogant and yet ignorant all at the same time, saying, "Oh, here's Jonathan Gruber's writings." And the scary thing is, I bet this guy doesn't even know about Jonathan Gruber's history because they live in this bubble. The bubble is so vast and so just encompassing. These guys, I bet, don't even know that Jonathan Gruber is this freaking fraud. And so I posted a comment. I said, the minute I saw you citing Jonathan Gruber from MIT, I couldn't read on. But the fact the fact that you either A, ignored his past as a fraud, or B, you live in such a bubble you have no clue, either one is bad. Especially for a guy who holds himself out to be all that in a bag of chips, because there's no escape for that stuff, or no excuse for that stuff. That level of ignorance, or that level of arrogance. There's no other way around it. You're either ignorant or arrogant, and yet you are the intellectual that Paul Hollander talks about in the book Political Pilgrims. And if you want a book that will actually infuriate you, that's a good book to get. All right, we'll see you.